Plenty drama in the first two games on Sunday. 8 goals at Molineux as Chelsea beat Wolves by 6-2. And Bournemouth tying Newcastle 1 apiece, although they had a goal chalked off in controversial circumstances near the end of the game. Hello, everyone. Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Michallik and Luis Miguel Echegaray. We're going to start at Molineux. Jekyll, Hyde, Chelsea have been both this season. This all started before kickoff, Janusz Michallik, because Noni Madueke put an Instagram story post out there, which he thought was private, saying that he didn't really think Wolverhampton was a very nice place.
Yeah,
that's keeping it Disney. Does he think that Wolverhampton's a nice place now because he got a hat-trick as Chelsea won 6-2?
Yeah, it sounds like he really doesn't like Wolverhampton, right? I mean, never mind the post, but what he did to them afterwards. Look, I mean, it certainly was disrespectful if you really want to look at it, but he knew he had to do the talking on the pitch, and boy, oh boy, did he do it. Never mind the goals, but I mean, from the beginning, he was very, very dangerous on the right-hand side. Nuri, as good as he was going forward, contributed greatly to that first goal. I mean, defensively, he was absolute disaster. Him and Totti, Madueke pretty much owned them as well. So, that's what happens. Maybe he just needed a little bit more motivation because, let's face it, Maresca challenged him, didn't he? Felt that he was perhaps lazy in training. And, it's not like Madueke picked himself in the starting 11 when you look at it. So he answered the call and gotten a chance, took advantage of it.
Okay, LME, what do we make of Chelsea? Because last week it was all about far too many players. What are they doing? The transfer policy is a joke. Middle to front, they've scored 6 goals. They could have scored more. Still a bit suspect at the back. So is it Jekyll? Is it Hyde? Are they back? Are they still what they were? How on earth do you kind of sum Chelsea up right now?
Yeah, MD, Chelsea remind me of Thierry Henry's France at the Olympics. Like when they're on it, they're on it. There's so much individual talent. And obviously, given the fact that this is Enzo Maresca's first season, the very beginning of his tenure with the Blues, he's still got to get things going. And as you mentioned, they have like 458 players in Cobham. So, he's got to figure that out as well. But look, what I saw today, obviously, was a side of, first of all, Gary O'Neill's Wolves giving the ball away so frequently, so badly. They got a lot of talent going forward, but defensively, they're just not on it. But Chelsea today really clicked. I was very impressed, actually, and they took full advantage. So what you saw today, at least from my perspective, was finally a Chelsea that was figuring itself out from an individual perspective as well as a collective one. We mentioned Noni Madueke. He was wonderful today, not just because of the hat-trick, but just everything that he was doing on the wing, penetrating. Cole Palmer as well doing his thing, scoring an absolute beautiful goal. Honestly, when you look back, it might be a contender for goal of the season. Sanchez to Nico Jackson to Cole Palmer over the keeper's head. It was a wonderful thing to see. And I think Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, I like what Maresca is doing, which is just like, look, I don't want to just keep the ball for the sake of keeping the ball. Let's get at them. Let's go. And I think Wolves, to the point of what Gary O'Neill presents them as, was a great opponent for them to do that. So I was impressed with Chelsea today. Let's see what happens as the season continues. But, 6 goals. That's the first time, right, at the Molineux since 2007 that Wolves have conceded 6 goals. So wonderful stuff. You got to commend them for scoring that much early this season as well.
Yeah, they got some really good goals. The Palmer goal, as you said, was spectacular. Middle to front, was that Chelsea just being really good, Janusz, or defensively, was that just Wolves being really bad, or was it a bit of both today?
It's always a little bit of both, but 2 things. And, remember last week on the show, I think I had Maresca possibly being fired by Christmas, right? And not that I'm going to backtrack, but this was absolutely excellent. And I think I knew to be smarter than that, talking about Chelsea, because there are 2 factors when you talk about him, right? Luis mentioned we'll wait and see, because next month there's like 5 straight games when they play Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man United, and all that. So we'll really find out about them, because going forward, excellent defensively, an absolute disaster, even in the 6-2, right? Look, the good news for Chelsea is that Maresca, how he wants to play. This is not going to be Graham Potter. This is not going to be Poch. This is not going to be Thomas Tuchel, where for long periods of time during their season, they were pragmatic, right? I mean, this wasn't a team that Chelsea fans wanted to see, and we expected, to be fair. Here, obviously, firing on all cylinders, decisive, as Lewis has has made the case here. So I think that's positive, because that's how Maresca wants to play. I'm tired of talking about the disciple of Pep Guardiola, but you could see it here again. This time it was Malo Gusto coming inside. The Madueke having a great game. Cole Palmer playing centrally, which I think everybody's is asking for. And he looked good. What did he have? 3-4 assists and a wonderful 3 assists, wonderful goal as well. We'll see, but that's probably a place for him. Nico had some other chances as well, so that's the positive. The negative, look, I mean, last year 77 goals, a lot of late goals in the season, 63 conceded. Midfield and defense, absolute disaster. Look, we talk about money with Chelsea. Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez got to be the worst return on investment ever. Nothing. Caicedo again in the beginning, okay. On the first and second goal, guilty. Enzo on the first goal as well, guilty. Both of those players. And defensive transition, I mean, this game could have been 8, but it could have been 6-4, 6-5 as well. So he needs to find that balance, and maybe Chelsea will be okay.
Okay, Elemi, it's 2-2 at half time, because Wolves have equalised just before the break. Again, a ball in causing chaos, and Strand Larsen with the goals. So what's happened in the second half? Have Chelsea done anything differently? Because Madueke gets his hat-trick and Joao Felix gets one off the bench. So 4 unanswered goals for Chelsea in the second half. They were scintillating middle to front.
Yeah, I think discipline was the key here. Discipline from the home side, really. Because when you look at the midfield, right, with Lemina and Gomez, or lack of, exactly. That's exactly what I think Gary O'Neill's side was missing. As the game continued, it was a game where I think I tweeted saying that this reminded me of like a 11-a-side version of futsal, right? Where it's just like back and forth. It was very entertaining. But at some point, and to the point that Janusz was talking about regarding Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, at least what they were giving was more penetration going forward. And I think almost every single time in the second half that Wolves had possession within the midfield or the final third, they were losing the ball and they were just so open. We liked how Ait Nouri likes to go forward. I mean, it was a wonderful little Cruyff turn before he delivered, helping in that first opening goal. But they also leave themselves so exposed. And I think when you just have that pace, Madueke on one side, Cole Palmer, Mudryk, Nico Jackson, and they're on it, they're just going to get you. So as the game developed and they lost discipline and a mental capacity to just hold fort, Chelsea just opened the doors. And they just have too much talent not to take advantage. It's going to be an interesting season for Gary and Wolves, because I thought, well, maybe at home they can be solid. And yes, it's the beginning of the season, but they got to be much better off the ball. Not even when they have it. When they have it, I feel good for them. They have a lot of offensive talent. When they don't have it, it's very, very worrying. And there's going to be better, more disciplined, stronger, mature teams in Chelsea coming their way this season.
Okay, Janusz, if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm like, hold on a minute. You've just given us a kick-in over the last 2 or 3 weeks for the players that we've signed, for the way that we've played some of the games, for the continual change of managers. We've just scored 6 goals. Where's the praise for this one? Is it praise that's deserved just middle to front, or could they potentially have turned a corner?
Well, success loves quiet, doesn't it? Right? I mean, amongst all the chaos and the talk and the performances, it was always going to be difficult. The amount of players they have, they've bought a lot, but let's be fair to them, they've sold a lot lately as well. I didn't look at the money exactly, but I tell you, it's pretty close what they've done this season. I'm not talking about in general. So I think we've given them praise. I thought from the beginning. I mean, the very first minute, if you remember, I mean, I think Madueke has the shot, subsequent corner. Was the first goal for Chelsea, right? I mean, they went at Wolves from the beginning, just as you expect from Maresca's teams. Now, that's going to take time. And, let's wait and see. I just think some of the narrative around Chelsea has got to die down. They're going to have to prove it in those games that I've mentioned, because it's just 2 games. They lost the first game to Manchester City. Now against Wolves, you'd like to think that they should get a decent result. So I don't know if they've turned the corner, but this is going to go a long, long way in terms of the plan and what Enzo Maresca wants to do. This is the football that he's going to want to play. And at the very least today, he's proven that this Chelsea team is capable of doing that. So that's a big plus, I think.
Yeah, good to watch today. 6 excellent goals. Madueke at times unplayable. Cole Palmer back to his best. So Chelsea win by 6-2. LME, what about Wolves? It's not a nice start to the season. It was Arsenal away in the first game, and then Chelsea at home. They've just been turned over. So I'm just looking at their fixtures going forward. They've got a League Cup tie at home to Burnley, but Premier League, they go to Forest. They've got Newcastle at home, Villa away, Liverpool at home. Is this just a ride the storm and try and get through this and pick up points where you can against the teams that you're expected, or do you worry for them with what you saw today?
Yeah, I think we briefly talked about this in the opening weekend, and I think I'm going to stick with what we were discussing, which is I am not necessarily worried in terms of relegation, but in terms of what they need to do to go forward and be a top 10 team. That's where my worry goes, specifically because I think the likes of Max Kilman leaving opens big holes for them. At least he offered a lot of leadership and security at the back. I think Pedro Neto, I think we can see now how reliant they were on him. There's a lot of talent here, individual talent. That's why at the beginning of this game, it was really fun to watch because they were going at Chelsea and being offensively minded, which is great. What worries me is maturity and discipline, in certain moments. And just like Janusz was talking about, let's see what Chelsea do against bigger teams. Wolves now really have to worry about not just bigger teams, but teams that are almost in the same kind of objectives that they're themselves in. And those matches that are coming up for them are going to be interesting. I mean, remember, this was the first time since 2007 they've conceded 6 goals at home. Like, I hope for the sake of Wolves fans that this is not going to be a trend. But they got a lot to do because this is a competitive Premier League that's going to have a lot of teams that are going to want to push for those top 10 positions and even further on. I don't see Wolves at this moment doing that. So there's a lot to do. But by the way, as somebody who travels to that side of England a lot, obviously, from an Aston Villa perspective, and Wolves being a rival to them, Wolverhampton is a lovely place. So come on now. Let's be a little kinder to the city.
Everybody's going to love you. Everybody's going to love you there.